Welcome to the Embodied Empath Podcast, the space where sensitive, intuitive women learn to regulate their nervous system, heal anxiety, and live with grounded confidence. I'm your host, Valerie Lundgren. Let's begin. All right, so let me ask you something. How many times have you known what you wanted and then talked yourself out of it? You knew you wanted to say no, but you said yes. Or maybe you knew something just didn't feel right, but someone told you that you're overreacting. You made a decision and then spent the next 3 days wondering if you made the wrong one. Maybe you wrote the text, deleted it, rewrote it, and then sent it. And then reread it in 12 different times, wondering, did that sound rude? Did I say too much? Are they mad at me? Maybe they didn't respond right away, so then you're swirling in your head about that. Maybe you ask everyone else what they think before you make a decision. Or maybe you've become so accustomed to questioning yourself that sometimes you don't even know what you want anymore. And if that sounds familiar, today's episode is for you. Welcome back to the Embodied Empath Podcast. I'm Valerie, and today we're talking about something I think sits underneath so much anxiety: the loss of self-trust. Because anxiety doesn't only make you afraid, over time, it can make you stop believing yourself. And healing isn't simply about becoming less anxious. It's about being able to say, I trust myself to handle life. So anxiety loves certainty. Anxiety wants certainty. And it wants to know what is going to happen. Am I making the right decision? Is everyone okay? Did I do something wrong? Is this sensation dangerous? What if I regret this? What if they leave? What if I fail? And because life can give us a complete certainty, life can never give us a complete certainty. The anxious mind keeps searching. One more Google search, one more opinion, one more reassurance, one more conversation, one more time checking your body. And for a moment, you feel better. But then the uncertainty returns. So you check again. And without realizing it, you begin teaching yourself, I can trust my own answer. This is one of the most important anxiety patterns to understand. Imagine you feel something strange in your body. Immediately your mind says, what was that? And you become anxious. So you search online, or you ask someone, or you check your pulse, or you think through every possible explanation. And eventually you find reassurance, and your nervous system settles for a little while. The brain learns, hey, checking made us safe. So the next time uncertainty appears, your brain wants you to check again. This is why reassurance can feel helpful in the moment while actually keeping the anxiety cycle going when it becomes compulsive. Your nervous system isn't trying to torture you. It's just trying to learn from the repetition. I understand this personally. When I was struggling with panic and agoraphobia, I stopped trusting my body. A racing heart wasn't simply a racing heart. It meant something might happen. Dizziness wasn't simply a sensation. It became something I needed to monitor. Being away from home wasn't simply being away from home. My mind immediately began calculating. What if I panic? What if I can't get home? What if something happens and no one can help me? And slowly, the world just became smaller. There was a period when I couldn't even walk to the end of my own driveway. That's what anxiety can do. It convinces you that safety comes from controlling everything around you. But the more I tried to control, the less I trusted myself. And one of the biggest shifts in my healing wasn't nothing bad will ever happen. It was whatever happens, I trust myself to meet it. And that's the difference. The distinction changed so much for me. Self-trust does not mean I know everything will work out exactly the way I want. It means I trust myself even when I don't know. I trust myself to adjust and to ask for help. I trust myself to feel uncomfortable and to change my mind. I also trust myself to make mistakes, and I trust myself to recover. And that's real security. Because if safety depends on knowing exactly what's going to happen, you'll never feel completely safe. Life is uncertain. Self-trust says, and I can still be okay. So let's talk about what's happening biologically. Your brain is constantly making predictions. It's taking information from your body, your environment, and your previous experience and asking, what is likely to happen next? This predictive ability is incredibly useful. It helps us navigate the world efficiently. But a nervous system shaped by chronic anxiety or prolonged stress can become biased toward threat. Ambiguity becomes something might be wrong. A physical sensation becomes, what if this is dangerous? Someone's mood changes and your brain says, did I cause that? And the brain fills in missing information. And when you've lived with anxiety for so long, it often fills in those blanks with danger. So now we have another layer, the empath, self-trust problem. Being an empath, because empaths can become incredibly skilled at noticing everyone else, you walk into a room and you immediately sense she's upset, he's uncomfortable, something feels different, energy's changed, shifted. But here's where sensitivity can become exhausting. Instead of simply noticing, you become interpreting. So she's upset. Did I do something? He seems distant. Maybe I did something wrong. Something feels off. I need to fix it. And then suddenly, someone else's emotional state becomes information about you. And this is where we need discernment. Because sensitivity is not the same as certainty. You can certainly accurately notice that someone's mood has shifted and still be completely wrong about why. And this is such an important distinction for empaths. This is also where women ask me, how do I know if it's intuition or anxiety? And I don't think there's a perfect formula, but there are patterns that we can notice. Hypervigilance tends to demand, do something now, figure it out, fix it, check it, get reassurance. Intuition often has less argument around it. It may still tell you something you don't want to hear, but there can be a steadiness underneath it. Generally, intuition doesn't have an emotional connection. And here's the important part. You don't need to act on every sensation immediately. You can notice, pause, regulate, and then decide. That pause is where the discernment grows. So let's go ahead and talk about people pleasing. Every time your body says no, and you say yes, you are teaching yourself something. That every time you're exhausted but show up anyway, or every time something hurts but you tell yourself you're being dramatic, or every time you change your opinion because someone disagrees, maybe there's times where you abandon your boundary because someone is disappointed. So then your body learns, my signals don't matter. That's why rebuilding self-trust isn't only mental, it's behavioral. You have to begin showing your body, when you speak, I listen. And I have to bring perimenopause into this conversation because this is a time when many women tell me, I don't trust myself anymore. Your mood may feel different, your sleep will change, your emotional threshold is just all over the place, and anxiety becomes a lot louder. So your body suddenly responds differently than it did 10 years ago. And that can be incredibly disorientating. But something else happens during this season. Women become less willing to betray themselves. The things that you've tolerated for 20 years suddenly feel impossible. The relationships start feeling different. Your boundaries will change. You want more space. You want more truth, and you want less noise. And you may think, what is happening to me? Sometimes what is happening is that your body is asking you to develop a new relationship with yourself. Not one based on overriding. It's going to be based on listening. We tend to think rebuilding self-trust requires making some giant life-changing decision. Usually it doesn't. It happens in the tiny moments. When you're tired, you rest. When your body says no, you honor it. You want something, you allow yourself to want it. You make a decision and you don't pull 5 friends afterwards. Someone is disappointed with your boundary and you let them be disappointed. Maybe you feel anxious, and instead of immediately trying to eliminate the anxiety, you tell yourself, I can be with this. Every one of those moments becomes evidence. Evidence that I don't abandon myself anymore. You will still get it wrong sometimes, and that's really important to understand. Self-trust does not mean you'll always make the right decision. You're going to get things wrong. I get things wrong still. Everyone does. Sometimes you'll think something is an intuition and then realize later it was just fear. Sometimes you'll say yes and wish you had said no, or set a boundary and then want to adjust it. That's okay. Self-trust isn't trusting yourself to be perfect. It's just trusting yourself to repair, to learn, to change direction, and to come back. And that's the freedom. So we're going to do a somatic practice. I invite you to find a comfortable position. Now, again, please do these practices when you are sitting still in a quiet space. No driving while we are doing this. And I want to give you a simple practice. So we're going to start with just kind of take a deep breath in. And we're not going to start with a huge decision. We're not deciding whether to leave a marriage or quit a job with this exercise. We're going to do something really small. So just sitting comfortably, feet on the ground, taking a breath. Now, say something you know is true. For example, my name is Valerie, or whatever your name is, right? And just notice your body. Don't analyze, just notice. Okay. When you say it, maybe there's neutrality, or maybe there's a steadiness. Maybe nothing happens at all, and that's okay. Now say something you know isn't true. So something simple. My name is Susan. Ooh, again, notice. Does anything shift? Maybe your forehead tightens, your belly contracts, or maybe your breath changes. There's no correct response here. We're simply practicing our noticing. I noticed when I said my name is Susan, my chest got tighter. It was almost like my heart started coming up through my chest. Now ask yourself a very small question. Do I want tea or coffee? Do I want to sit outside or inside? Do I want quiet or music? And notice what happens before your mind starts explaining. And when you get an answer, practice honoring it. This is how we rebuild self-trust. Not through one giant revelation, but through hundreds of tiny moments where you show your body, I'm listening. So there's another piece of coming home to yourself that I want to talk about. You cannot come home to yourself while constantly asking everyone else for directions. At some point, you have to stop asking. Instead of asking, what do you think I should do? You begin asking, what do I think? Not because outside guidance is bad. Having a therapist, coach, doctors, mentors, trusted friends, we need people. So we have our people. But good support shouldn't make you dependent on someone else's answers. It should help you hear your own. And the goal isn't to never need reassurance. And I want to be careful here. We're human. We need reassurance sometimes. We need support. We need someone to say, I've got you. There's nothing wrong with that. Or the goal isn't hyper independence. The goal is to stop outsourcing your entire sense of safety. To be able to receive support without abandoning your own knowing. So here's what I want you to practice this week. Before asking someone else what they think, pause and ask yourself first, what do I think? Before fixing someone else's mood, just ask yourself, is this actually mine to fix? And before saying yes, ask yourself, does my body want to say yes? So just notice, what might things be telling you? And before checking for reassurance, check in and just see what your body is looking for. Ask yourself, what would it look like to trust myself for the next 5 minutes? Last episode, we talked about coming back home to yourself. And I think this is the next piece of that conversation. Because coming home isn't only about reconnecting with yourself, it's about learning to trust the woman you find there. The woman underneath the anxiety or the roles or the expectations, under the people-pleasing and the survival response. She's still there. And every time you listen to her, she gets a little louder. So if anxiety has made you question yourself for years, I want you to know that self-trust can be rebuilt. Slowly, gently, one decision at a time. You don't have to know exactly what's going to happen. You don't have to make every decision perfectly. And you don't have to eliminate anxiety before you start living. You can simply begin practicing. I trust myself to meet what comes. And if you don't fully believe that yet, that's okay. Borrow the words until your nervous system begins to experience them. If this episode resonated, share it with the woman who asks everyone else what she should do. Even though somewhere underneath all of that overthinking, she already knows. And if you're ready to go deeper into nervous system regulation, somatic healing, learning more about anxiety, or how to come back to yourself, go ahead and explore my website, valerielundgren.co. And subscribe to the Empath Podcast so you don't miss our next conversation. And this week, before you ask the world for an answer, come back to your body, come back to your voice, and come back to yourself. And ask, what do I know? You may be surprised by the answer. I'll see you next week. This episode supported you. Share it with another empath who needs it. And if you're ready for deeper work, somatic coaching, nervous system healing, or my Embodied Reset program, just visit mindfulwellness.me. Your healing is not a solo journey. See you next week.